Welcome to Starbound Valor HFY. Subscribe now and dive into daily epic sci-fi adventures where humanity always rises. The alien fleet moved slowly through deep space, far from any known star system. The region was quiet, dark, and believed to be empty. For the fleet commander, this patrol was routine. Nothing dangerous had ever been found here. The ships flew in perfect formation, their lights dim, their engines calm. Crew members worked without stress, watching scanners that rarely changed. Space around them felt dead and cold, just as expected. Inside the main command ship, the scanner officer stared at his screen with bored eyes. Energy levels were low. No signals. No movement. The fleet was alone. He adjusted the scanner range out of habit, not expecting anything new. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then a faint mark appeared at the edge of the display. It was so weak that it looked like a mistake. The officer leaned closer, his boredom fading. He increased the sensitivity. The mark did not disappear. It became clearer. The officer frowned. The reading made no sense. The object was large, but there was no heat signature. No engine trail. No signal code. It was like a shadow in space. He checked the system for errors. Everything was working perfectly. He ran the scan again. The same result appeared, but now there were more marks. Not one object. Many. All silent. All dark. The officer felt a chill move through his body. He called out to the commander. "Sir, scanner anomaly detected." The commander turned slowly, annoyed more than concerned. Anomalies were common and usually harmless. "Explain," he said. The officer pointed at the screen. Multiple large objects. No known design. No energy pattern we recognize. The commander stepped closer. His expression changed. The readings were wrong. The size alone was troubling. These objects were massive, far larger than any known ship class. The commander ordered a full system scan. All ships focused their sensors on the unknown area. Data streamed in from every angle. The result was worse. The objects were real. They were not asteroids. Not space debris. They were ships. Warships. But they were not behaving like any warship the fleet had ever studied. They were completely silent, as if powered down, yet their mass readings suggested extreme durability. Scientists were called to the command deck. They studied the data carefully. One of them spoke in a low voice. "Sir, these ships are masking everything. Heat, radiation, signals. It is advanced technology." The commander asked the question no one wanted to answer. "Can you identify the species?" The scientist shook his head. "No. Their design does not match any known civilization." Tension spread across the fleet. Crew members whispered. Unknown ships meant danger. Unknown warships meant disaster. The commander ordered the fleet to hold position. Weapons remained inactive, but shields were raised. The alien ships felt small for the first time. They had numbers, but numbers meant nothing without understanding the enemy. Suddenly, one of the scanners spiked. Not an attack. Not a message. Just a momentary increase in energy, then silence again. The officer stared at the data in shock. "Sir." They adjusted position. The commander's eyes narrowed. He had not ordered movement. "How?" The officer swallowed. They moved without detectable thrust. That was when fear truly began. Movement without engines was considered impossible. It violated known physics. The commander ordered a visual scan. Cameras focused on the dark shapes ahead. At first, the screen showed nothing but black space. Then the stars shifted. Shadows moved. Slowly, massive shapes emerged from the darkness. The ships were long, armored, and simple in design. No bright markings. No colors. Just dark metal and sharp angles. They looked old and new at the same time. The commander felt his breathing slow. These ships were not made to impress. They were made to survive. Every line, every plate, every structure had a purpose. There was no wasted space. No weakness visible. Weapons ports were sealed but clearly present, hidden under thick armor. The fleet commander had studied war for centuries. He knew one truth when he saw it. These ships were built by a species that expected battle. The scanner officer spoke again, his voice shaking. "Sir, weapon systems are active." The commander looked back at the screen. The ships ahead had not moved aggressively. They had not aimed weapons. They had not sent warnings. Yet the scanners now showed power flowing through systems beyond anything recorded before. Energy levels were rising, controlled and calm. Not rushed. Not desperate. "Are they targeting us?" the commander asked. The officer checked again. "No, sir. They are ready." That word carried weight. Ready meant they did not fear this encounter. Ready meant they had prepared long before this moment. The commander ordered a small scout ship to move closer. The scout accelerated toward the unknown fleet. Its mission was simple. Get closer readings and return. The moment the scout crossed a certain distance, its signal vanished. There was no explosion, no debris, no energy surge. It simply disappeared from every sensor. Silence filled the command deck. No one spoke. The commander stared at the empty space where the scout had been. His hands tightened. This was no accident. This was control. The unknown ships had allowed the scout to exist, then removed it without effort. The scanner officer finally broke the silence. "Sir, these ships are not reacting like aliens." The commander turned slowly. "Explain." The officer hesitated. "They are behaving like predators that have already measured us." As the fleet remained frozen in space, one final reading appeared on the main screen. A new classification label formed automatically, created by the system itself. The words were simple, but terrifying. Species. Human. The commander whispered the name aloud, though no record explained it. In that moment, the fleet understood one thing clearly. First contact had already gone wrong. The command deck stayed silent after the scout ship vanished. No alarms sounded. No explosions echoed through space. That silence was worse than any attack. The alien commander kept his eyes fixed on the empty screen where the scout had been moments before. His mind searched for logic, for rules, for anything familiar. There was none. The scout had not been destroyed. It had been erased, clean and perfect, as if it never existed. The commander slowly raised his hand and ordered all ships to halt every movement. Engines powered down. Weapons stayed inactive. Shields remained high. The fleet floated like frozen statues in space. Every crew member felt the same fear, but none dared to speak it. They were being watched. Scientists worked quickly, checking data from the scout's final seconds. They replayed the recordings again and again. No hostile beam. No energy spike. No physical contact. One scientist finally spoke. "Sir, the scout crossed an invisible boundary." The commander looked at him. "A weapon range?" The scientist shook his head. "No. Something else. A control zone." The idea disturbed everyone. Control zones were theoretical. No species had ever mastered space to that level. The unknown ships had not reacted emotionally or aggressively. They had acted with certainty. The commander realized something important. These humans had expected visitors. Maybe not this fleet, but someone. Another scanner officer spoke carefully. "Sir, I am detecting layered signals." The commander turned. "Explain." The officer adjusted the display. "There are multiple sensor fields overlapping each other. Each one hides another." The scientists stared in disbelief. Hiding sensors inside sensors was inefficient for most species. It wasted energy. But the humans were doing it easily. That meant energy was not a concern for them. The commander ordered long-range scans across all known spectrums. Gravity, radiation, quantum shifts, even experimental methods were used. Slowly, The picture became clearer. The human ships were not alone. More ships were hidden deeper in the dark, far beyond normal detection range. What the fleet had first seen was only the outer layer. Fear turned into dread. The commander counted the estimated numbers. It was not a patrol. It was a wall. A defensive line built to stop something much larger than an exploration fleet. The commander understood the truth too late. They had not discovered humans. They had wandered into a guarded border. The commander considered sending a message. First contact protocol demanded communication. But protocol also assumed both sides would behave in familiar ways. Humans had already broken every expectation. Still, silence could be seen as threat. He ordered a basic greeting signal to be prepared. It carried no weapons code, no demands, only identification. Before the message could be sent, the human ships moved again. Not forward. Not backward. They shifted sideways, smoothly and silently, adjusting formation with perfect precision. The movement was slow, almost polite, but it achieved something terrifying. The alien fleet was now completely surrounded. No escape path remained. The scanner officer whispered, "Sir, they are hurting us." The word felt wrong but accurate. The humans were not rushing. They were shaping the battlefield without firing a single shot. The commander felt small. Strategy like this required deep confidence. Only a species that had survived countless wars would think this way. One of the scientists began reviewing ancient data archives. Forbidden records. Lost encounters. Half-erased myths. His eyes widened. "Sir," he said, voice shaking, "there are fragments. Old warnings from extinct civilizations." The commander turned sharply. "Warnings about what?" The scientist swallowed. "About a species that learned war before unity. A species that fought itself until only the strongest ideas survived." The name appeared again in the data. Humans. The scientist continued. They did not conquer the galaxy. They defended themselves from it. The commander felt his chest tighten. That meant every ship ahead was not an explorer or an invader. It was a guardian. On the main screen, a faint signal appeared. Not a message yet. A carrier wave. Clean. Simple. The fleet froze. This was the first deliberate communication from the humans. The signal did not enter their systems forcefully. It waited, requesting permission. The politeness was unsettling. The commander hesitated, then allowed limited reception. The signal grew stronger. Still no words. Just a steady presence. The scientists analyzed it quickly. "Sir," one said, "this signal carries timing markers. They are syncing with our systems." The commander's eyes widened. "Is that dangerous?" The scientist shook his head slowly. "No. They are learning how we perceive time." That realization struck deep. Humans were not guessing. They were adapting in real time. The commander understood now why the scout ship vanished. It had been studied, measured, and removed as easily as a thought. The fleet's morale began to crack. Crew members watched the dark shapes around them, feeling exposed despite shields and armor. The humans had not attacked, but restraint itself was a message. They were confident enough to wait. Then the signal changed. One simple burst followed by silence. The computers translated it automatically. Not a threat. Not a greeting. Just a statement. "Unknown fleet, you are within restricted space." The words were calm. Emotionless. The commander felt a strange mix of relief and terror. They were being spoken to. But the message implied something worse. This space belonged to the humans, and the fleet was trespassing. As the commander prepared to respond, the scanner officer spoke one final time, his voice barely steady. "Sir, the ships are still hiding more." The commander closed his eyes briefly. Whatever humans were, one thing was clear. They never showed their full strength first. The alien fleet remained locked in place, surrounded by silent human warships. No engines burned. No weapons fired. The space between them felt heavy, as if even the stars were watching. The commander stood motionless on the command deck, reading the human message again and again. The words were simple, but their meaning was clear. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a boundary, and it had been crossed. The commander ordered all external cameras to focus on the nearest human ship. Until now, the visuals had been unclear, distorted by layered masking fields. Slowly, the distortion faded. The shape became sharp and undeniable. The crew saw it clearly for the first time, and fear spread instantly. The ship was massive, far larger than any alien vessel in the fleet. Its surface was dark and rough, marked with deep armor plates that overlapped like scales. There were no bright lights, no symbols of pride or identity. It looked like a weapon given form. The design confused the scientists. Most advanced civilizations decorated their ships. Colors, patterns, energy glow, all were signs of progress. The human ship had none of that. It was simple, brutal, and functional. Every structure served a purpose. Long weapon housings ran along its sides, hidden behind heavy armor. Nothing was exposed. Nothing was fragile. As the cameras zoomed closer, the commander noticed something unsettling. The human ship showed signs of repair and modification. Plates had been replaced. Sections reinforced. This ship had been in battle many times. It had survived. The commander realized these ships were not new. They were experienced. Another human ship came into view, then another. Each one was different in small ways but identical in purpose. This was not a fleet built for display. It was built for war and survival. The alien fleet, advanced and proud only moments before, now felt like a group of fragile machines drifting among predators. The commander ordered a slow rotation of the fleet to observe all sides. Every direction revealed the same thing. Human warships, perfectly placed, each one covering the others. There were no gaps, no weaknesses. The humans had mastered formation control at a level beyond any known species. The scanner officer spoke quietly. "Sir, they have not changed posture since surrounding us." The commander understood. They did not need to. Their position alone was enough. A scientist approached with new data. "Sir, we are detecting multiple weapon systems, but they are different from ours." The commander nodded. "Explain." The scientist hesitated. "They do not rely on one method. Energy weapons, kinetic systems, gravity manipulation, and unknown types we cannot classify. Redundancy layered on redundancy." That explained the confidence. Humans did not depend on one advantage. If one method failed, another would succeed. This was the thinking of a species shaped by constant conflict. The commander authorized a controlled broadcast, a visual-only signal. He wanted the humans to see them clearly as well. The alien fleet appeared on the human displays, organized and disciplined, but visibly smaller and less armored. The commander hoped that transparency would reduce tension. The response was immediate. One human ship adjusted its orientation, turning its forward section toward the alien flagship. The movement was slow, deliberate, and careful. It felt like eye contact. Then something unexpected happened. External lights activated on the human ship, illuminating its surface. Not decorative lights, but work lights, revealing every detail of its armor and weapons. The message was clear. There was nothing to hide. The humans were not afraid of being seen. The commander studied the illuminated hull. Symbols appeared near the front. Simple markings, worn and faded. They were not decorative. They were names. Identification marks. This meant individuality existed within the human fleet. These were not mindless machines or drones. They were crewed by thinking beings who named their ships, who valued them. That made the situation more dangerous, not less. Emotion combined with discipline created unpredictable warriors. The human signal returned, now carrying visual data. A figure appeared on the screen. A human. The commander saw the species for the first time. The human stood upright, wearing dark armor. Its face was forward-facing, eyes focused, expression calm. No fear. No anger. Just attention. The human spoke, but the words were delayed as translation systems worked. The voice was steady and controlled. Unknown fleet, identify your purpose. The simplicity of the demand struck the commander. No threats. No raised voice. The humans expected an answer, not because they needed it, but because protocol demanded it. The commander responded, identifying his species and stating that the fleet was on exploration duty. He carefully avoided words like accident or mistake. The human listened without interruption. When the commander finished, the human nodded slightly. "We detected your arrival long before you crossed the boundary," the human said. "Your scout was removed to prevent further intrusion." The word removed echoed in the command deck. It confirmed what they already feared. The scout had not been destroyed by chance. It had been taken away with precision. The commander asked the question burning in his mind. "Why did you not destroy our fleet?" The human's answer came without hesitation. "Because you have not yet shown hostile intent." That sentence carried more weight than any threat. It implied a line that, once crossed, would not be forgiven. The human continued. "This is your first and final warning. Remain still." The screen went dark. The lights on the human ship powered down again. The fleet was left surrounded by silent warships, now fully visible and fully understood. The commander realized something chilling. The humans had allowed first contact to happen. On their terms. The alien command deck felt colder after the human transmission ended. No sound followed the dark screen. No movement came from the surrounding warships. The silence was no longer empty. It was controlled. The commander understood that every second of quiet was intentional. The humans were waiting. The fleet remained motionless, exactly as ordered. Even minor course corrections were cancelled. The commander knew that a single wrong move could change everything. He studied the faces of his crew. Fear was present, but so was focus. They were professionals, and survival depended on discipline. The commander ordered the communication team to prepare a formal response. Not a protest. Not a challenge. A careful statement acknowledging the warning. The message was reviewed word by word. No emotional language. No defensive phrasing. Just respect. When it was sent, the signal traveled cleanly across space, unarmed and unencrypted. For several long moments, there was no reply. The human ships did not shift. They did not react. The commander wondered if silence itself was the answer. Then the scanners detected a change. Energy levels across the human fleet rose slightly. Not a surge. Not a charge. A coordinated adjustment. The scanner officer spoke softly. "Sir, they are activating secondary systems." The commander asked the question already forming in every mind. "Weapons?" The officer shook his head. "No. Command and control systems." That realization struck hard. The humans were not preparing to fight. They were preparing to decide. The main display lit up again. The human commander appeared, the same calm expression on his face. He looked older now, marked by experience. His eyes held no hatred, only clarity. "Your response has been received," he said. "You will remain where you are while we assess intent." The alien commander inclined his head. He understood. Assessment meant judgment. Judgment meant consequences. Behind the human commander, the alien crew noticed something new. Other humans stood in the background, officers and analysts watching quietly. This was not a single decision-maker. It was a system. Layers of authority working together. The human continued. "You entered a zone protected by human defense fleets. This region has been restricted for 300 cycles." The commander felt a wave of shock. 300 cycles meant centuries. Humans had been here long before the galaxy noticed. "Why restrict it?" the alien commander asked carefully. The human paused, as if choosing words that would carry weight. Because this region contains worlds we will not lose. The statement was simple, but its meaning was heavy. Humans were not expanding. They were guarding something precious. Families, homes, history. The human lifted one hand, and a star map appeared on the screen. It showed the surrounding systems, with markers the alien fleet had never seen before. These worlds are civilian zones, the human said. We do not allow unknown fleets to approach them. The alien commander realized something important. This was not a military outpost. It was a shield. The humans were standing between danger and what they loved. The human's tone hardened slightly. Your scout ship crossed an automated line. Its crew was not harmed. They are contained and safe. Relief spread across the command deck. The scout had not been killed. The commander allowed himself a slow breath. But the relief faded quickly when the human continued. However, the human said, further violations will not receive the same restraint. The warning was clear. Mercy was not unlimited. The commander asked the only question that mattered now. What do you require from us? The human's eyes remained steady. You will power down offensive systems. You will transmit full navigation data. Then you will wait. The alien commander hesitated for less than a second before agreeing. Resistance was meaningless. Trust, even forced trust, was the only path forward. Orders were given. Weapons were powered down. Data streams opened. The human fleet received everything. As the data transferred, the alien scientists noticed something alarming. The humans already knew much of it. Their systems corrected errors in real time, adjusting maps and equations as if they had expected differences. The humans were not learning from zero. They were refining. Minutes passed. Then hours. The fleet remained suspended in space, surrounded by watchful warships. No human vessel moved closer. No threats were made. The tension became unbearable. Finally, the human commander returned. His expression had changed slightly. Not softer, but thoughtful. Your fleet does not match hostile profiles, he said. Your history shows limited expansion conflict. The alien commander felt hope stir. Then we may leave? The human did not answer immediately. Instead, he said, first contact often fails because of fear. Yours nearly did. The commander listened carefully. We will allow withdrawal, the human continued, but understand this. His voice lowered. Human space is defended not by aggression, but by readiness. We do not seek war, but we do not lose it either. The screen went dark again. The human warships did not move. But the message had changed everything. The alien fleet was no longer facing unknown monsters. They were facing guardians who chose restraint over destruction. And that choice was far more terrifying than violence. The alien fleet remained still even after the human message ended. No one rushed to speak. The commander stood quietly, thinking about the words he had just heard. Humans did not seek war, but they did not lose it either. That sentence repeated in his mind. It explained everything they had witnessed so far. The silence, the control, the patience. These were not signs of weakness. They were habits formed by survival. The commander ordered his historians and data analysts to search deeper into restricted archives. If humans had existed this long, traces would exist somewhere. Old encounters, lost signals, disappeared civilizations. The analysts hesitated before opening the oldest records. Many of them were incomplete, corrupted, or intentionally sealed. That alone was a warning. Slowly, fragments began to appear. Ancient trade logs from extinct species mentioned empty sectors marked as forbidden. Long-range probes had vanished without distress calls. One broken record described dark ships that never chased, never warned, and never missed. The name was blurred, translated differently across languages, but the meaning was always the same. A species that defended its space absolutely. The scientists shared their findings with the commander. "Sir," one said carefully, "humans were not unknown. They were avoided. The commander nodded. Avoidance on a galactic scale meant fear. One record stood out. It came from a species that no longer existed. Their final message spoke of a border they ignored, believing no one would dare enforce it. The message ended mid-sentence. No battle report followed. No survivors. The sector where they vanished was now silent and empty. The coordinates matched human-protected space. The commander felt his body tense. Humans did not destroy loudly. They erased threats completely. That was why there were no stories of human wars. Only silence. On the command deck, the crew began to understand the danger they had narrowly escaped. Humans did not react with emotion. They reacted with policy. That made them predictable in one way and unstoppable in another. Break the rule, and there would be no negotiation. The commander reviewed the human behavior again. They detected the fleet early. They surrounded it without aggression. They removed the scout without killing. They communicated calmly. Every action was measured. That level of discipline did not come from peace. It came from long, painful experience. A scientist spoke up. "Sir, we believe humans evolved under constant internal conflict." The commander turned. "Explain." The scientist nodded. "Their biology suggests competition. Their technology shows redundancy. Their strategy shows caution. They learned war fighting themselves before facing the stars." That idea chilled the room. A species that survived its own violence would be far more dangerous than one raised in harmony. Humans had not been shaped by a gentle universe. They had shaped themselves against it. The commander ordered the data shared across the fleet. Every officer needed to understand what they were dealing with. Fear without knowledge led to mistakes. Knowledge created restraint. As the information spread, the crew's fear changed. It became respect. Humans were no longer monsters in the dark. They were a force with reasons, rules, and limits. But those limits were firm. The human signal returned unexpectedly. Not a command. Not a warning. A data packet. The commander hesitated, then allowed it. The packet contained historical records. Human records. Selective but real. Wars fought on their homeworld. Near-extinction events. Times when survival required impossible choices. The message carried no pride. No celebration. It was presented as context. This is who we are. This is why we defend. The commander understood the intent. Humans wanted first contact to succeed. But success did not mean friendship. It meant understanding boundaries. The human commander appeared once more. "You now know why our borders exist," he said. "We learned the cost of being unprepared." The alien commander responded honestly. "Your restraint prevented a war today." The human nodded slightly. "Restraint is a weapon," he replied. "One we use carefully." That sentence revealed the truth. Everything humans did was a tool. Silence. Patience. Mercy. All of it was controlled. The alien commander asked one final question. "What will happen if another fleet ignores your warning?" The human did not hesitate. "They will not get a second one." The screen went dark. The message was complete. The commander looked around his command deck. His crew understood now. Humans were feared not because they were cruel, but because they were ready to do what others would not. They protected their people without hesitation. They erased threats without anger. And they slept peacefully knowing they could do it again. As the fleet prepared to withdraw, the commander marked the region permanently in their navigation systems. Human space. Restricted. Absolute. He knew this knowledge would spread. Civilizations would adjust their maps and their ambitions. First contact had gone wrong, but it had also gone right. The fleet had survived, and the galaxy had been reminded of an old truth. The most dangerous species was not the loudest or the most aggressive. It was the one that waited in silence, fully prepared. The alien fleet began slow preparations to withdraw, but the humans had not yet cleared a path. The surrounding warships held position, silent and unmoving, as if waiting for something more. The commander sensed that the encounter was not finished. Humans rarely acted without purpose, and restraint always carried a lesson. The fleet remained calm, weapons down, engines low, following every instruction exactly. Then the scanners changed again. A focused energy buildup appeared on a single human warship. It was not sudden or chaotic. It was clean and precise. The scanner officer reported it immediately. "Sir, one human ship is routing power to an external system." The commander felt tension return. "Weapons?" he asked. The officer shook his head slowly. "Unknown system. Not aligned with their main batteries." The human commander appeared on the screen without warning. His expression was unchanged, calm and professional. "Do not be alarmed," he said. "What you are about to observe is not an attack." The alien commander listened carefully. Every word matters now. "This is a demonstration," the human continued. Before any response could be sent, space itself seemed to bend. A distant point far beyond the alien fleet shimmered briefly. Then a single pulse was released. It did not look like a beam or an explosion. It was a distortion, a ripple that traveled silently through space. It passed far away from the alien ships, missing them by a wide margin. Seconds later, the ripple reached a dead asteroid field in the distance. One massive rock simply collapsed inward. No explosion. No fragments flying outward. The asteroid folded into itself and vanished, leaving empty space behind. The scanners went wild. Energy readings spiked beyond known limits, then dropped back to zero. The command deck was frozen in shock. The human commander spoke again. "That was a warning shot," he said calmly. "Fired at less than 1% output." Fear spread through the fleet like a wave. The alien commander understood immediately. This was not a threat meant to scare. It was a lesson meant to be understood. Humans did not rely on destruction. They relied on control. The scanner officer checked shield integrity. "Sir, if that had been aimed at us, our shields would not have registered impact. We would have ceased to exist." The commander closed his eyes briefly. The humans had not demonstrated power. They had demonstrated restraint. The human commander continued. "We do not show this to most fleets," he said. "But first contact requires clarity." He paused. "You must understand the difference between warning and mercy." The alien commander nodded slowly. "We understand," he replied honestly. There was no pride left to protect. Only survival and respect. The human ship that fired the pulse returned to silence. No heat. No lingering energy. It was as if nothing had happened. That frightened the crew even more. A weapon that left no trace was a weapon perfected. The human commander added one more statement. "Our fleet is capable of far more," he said. "What you witnessed was designed not to cause panic." The irony was painful. The demonstration had terrified them completely. But it had also answered every doubt. Humans were not bluffing. They never needed to. The surrounding warships slowly shifted formation. A narrow corridor opened in front of the alien fleet. The path was clear and deliberate. An exit. The human commander's voice returned one last time. "You may withdraw," he said. "Remain on this vector until you exit protected space." The alien commander issued the order immediately. Engines powered up slowly. No sudden acceleration. No sudden turns. The fleet moved as one, drifting forward through the corridor of human warships. Crew members watched the dark hulls pass by, close enough to see surface scars and weapon ports sealed behind armor. No human ship followed. No targeting systems activated. The humans did not chase. They did not watch closely. Their confidence was absolute. They knew the alien fleet would not turn back. As the fleet crossed the boundary, scanners cleared. The heavy pressure lifted. The human ships faded back into darkness, their masking fields active once more. Space returned to its empty, quiet state. But nothing felt the same. The commander looked at his crew. They had entered unknown space as explorers. They were leaving as witnesses. Witnesses to a power that chose control over chaos. He recorded a final log entry. Human technology exceeds all projections, he said. But their greatest weapon is discipline. The fleet continued its retreat, carrying knowledge that would change the galaxy. Humans were not conquerors waiting to expand. They were guardians waiting to respond. And anyone who mistook their silence for weakness would never get the chance to learn otherwise. The alien fleet moved slowly along the exit corridor, engines humming at minimum power. Every ship followed the exact vector given by the humans. No one dared to deviate, not even by a fraction. The memory of the collapsed asteroid was still fresh in every mind. The commander stood silently, watching the distance markers count down as they approached the edge of human-protected space. Even though the path was open, fear did not fade. The human warships were still there, hidden but present. Scanners showed nothing, yet everyone knew they were being watched. That knowledge pressed heavily on the crew. Humans did not need to stay visible. They trusted their control. The scanner officer broke the silence. "Sir, long-range sensors show no pursuit." The commander nodded. He expected that. Humans did not chase retreating threats. They simply ensured those threats never returned. As the fleet moved farther away, communication channels came alive. Officers from different ships requested permission to speak. Fear had loosened discipline, and the commander allowed limited discussion. Questions flooded in. How close had they come to destruction? Why had the humans let them go? What kind of species chose mercy when it held absolute power? The commander answered carefully. "Because they did not need to destroy us," he said. "And because we listened." That answer spread across the fleet. Listening had saved them. Not strength. Not technology. Respect. Behind the comm movement, panic had already begun at deeper levels. Medical teams reported elevated stress responses. Some crew members could not stop shaking. Others stared at their stations in silence, replaying images of the human ships again and again. The fear was not fading. It was changing into something more permanent. The commander ordered a fleet-wide debrief. Every ship received the same message. "You will record everything you observed," he said. "No interpretation. Only facts." The galaxy would need truth, not exaggeration. As reports came in, a clear pattern formed. Humans never rushed. Humans never wasted movement. Humans never showed full strength. Their ships acted like extensions of a single mind, coordinated beyond what the alien scientists thought possible. One report stood out. A junior officer described how the human formation subtly adjusted every time the alien fleet made even the smallest movement. The changes were instant, smooth, and perfect. The humans were not reacting. They were predicting. That discovery unsettled the commander deeply. Prediction meant experience. Experience meant repetition. Humans had faced many fleets before, and those fleets had likely not all left alive. The commander realized the true reason humans were feared. Not because they were violent, but because they removed uncertainty. They controlled outcomes. Once humans decided something, chance no longer mattered. As the fleet approached the final boundary marker, a single human signal appeared. No image. No voice. Just text. Maintain current speed. The message was polite and firm. The commander obeyed instantly. Moments later, space behind the fleet changed. A faint distortion appeared, then faded. The scientists analyzed it quickly. "Sir," one said, "they have sealed the corridor." The commander understood. The exit had been temporary. Human space was closing behind them like a door. Relief washed through the fleet as the final marker passed. Scanners confirmed it. They were out. Human-controlled space ended behind them. No signals followed. No shadows moved. The humans were gone. But the fear remained. The commander allowed engines to increase speed. The fleet moved away faster now, distance growing between them and the silent border. Crew members finally spoke freely. Some laughed nervously. Some prayed. Some sat quietly, changed forever. The commander knew this encounter would define his career and possibly his species' future. He began preparing the official report. It would be sent to the highest councils, shared with allies, and quietly leaked to rivals. Everyone needed to know where not to go. He titled the report carefully. Human Defensive Doctrine. Observational Contact. No dramatic language. No emotional words. Just facts. That alone would frighten those who understood. The report detailed the warning shot, the containment of the scout crew, the controlled withdrawal. But the final section carried the most weight. It was a single sentence. Human forces demonstrated complete battlefield dominance while choosing restraint. That sentence would echo across the galaxy. Militaries would debate it. Politicians would fear it. Explorers would mark new maps. The commander stood alone on the command deck after the fleet settled into safe travel. Stars passed by quietly, uncaring. The universe had not changed, but their understanding of it had. Humans were not legends. They were real. They were present. And they were ready. The commander thought of the human words again. Restraint is a weapon. He finally understood. Humans had learned that destroying an enemy once was less effective than teaching them never to return. As the fleet vanished into distant space, one truth settled deeply into every surviving mind. The galaxy was no longer an open frontier. It had borders now. And those borders were guarded by a species that did not need fear to rule. The alien fleet continued its retreat, engines humming low, as the emptiness of space stretched ahead. Every ship followed the vector carefully, but no one relaxed. The memory of human ships surrounding them was still vivid. The calm precision, the invisible control, and the complete restraint haunted every officer and crew member. The fleet commander knew the encounter was far from over, even though distance was growing. Humans did not act rashly. Their patience was part of their power. The commander ordered a full status report from each ship. Shields, engines, sensors, and weapon systems were checked. No damage, no energy loss, nothing missing. Yet the psychological toll was obvious. Crew members whispered about what they had seen. Fear had turned into respect, but respect itself carried tension. Humans were not just dangerous. They were a standard by which civilizations would be measured. The scanner officer reported something strange. "Sir, sensors indicate subtle anomalies in the warp currents ahead. Distortions in the space fabric." The commander frowned. "Explain." The officer adjusted the display. "These are natural, but humans have aligned their exit corridor with them perfectly. Every ship passed through with minimal energy usage. Efficiency beyond expectation." The commander considered the implications. Humans controlled not just their ships. They controlled the environment. They used space itself as part of their strategy. Their foresight was unmatched. The human commander appeared again on the fleet's main screens. His expression remained calm. "You are leaving our space," he said. "Understand clearly. This region is protected. Violations are no longer tolerated." The alien commander inclined his head. "We understand. Your warning has been received." The human spoke again, slowly and deliberately. Human space is not ruled by conquest or aggression. It is ruled by principle. The principle is survival and protection. You have seen the consequences of crossing this principle. No further explanation will be given. The weight of the words hit every officer. Humans had created rules that were absolute, enforced by discipline and controlled power. They did not rely on fear to dominate. They relied on enforcement that could not be broken. The commander asked cautiously, "Will there be retaliation if another fleet enters our space?" The human paused before responding. "Only if necessary. Our principle is not hostility, but it is absolute. Transgression has consequences that cannot be ignored. Preparation, readiness, and restraint are our weapons. This is the human rule." The term echoed in the minds of the alien officers. The human rule. It was not a law written on paper, not a threat issued in anger. It was a reality enforced through precision and discipline. Every human ship, every system, every action reflected it. To violate it was to risk elimination without hope of negotiation. As the alien fleet approached the farthest boundary marker, the commander noticed something else. Humans had not followed. No ship had tracked them. No systems had monitored their retreat. They had controlled everything without visible effort. The aliens realized that humans did not need constant observation. Their warning had been enough. The alien commander allowed himself a moment to reflect. Humans were unlike any species encountered before. Their technology was advanced, yes, but that was not the most important aspect. Their mindsets, their discipline, their ability to predict and control outcomes, that was the real power. The fleet continued moving through empty space, and the officer in charge of communications reported strange new activity. "Sir, fleets in nearby sectors are receiving warnings automatically. Subspace signals from the boundary markers indicate restricted human space now." The commander frowned. Humans had already expanded control without firing a shot. Without contact. The principle of deterrence worked perfectly. Entire regions would avoid human territory simply because of what they had witnessed. The alien scientists began analyzing the data in greater detail. "Sir, their efficiency in warship coordination and energy distribution exceeds known galactic standards," one said. "They combine prediction, redundancy, and restraint. Their entire fleet acts as a single entity. Even their decision to let us leave was pre-calculated to create maximum effect." The commander sighed. Humans were not just guardians. They were strategists who had perfected restraint as a weapon. The alien fleet had survived, but the lesson was clear. Underestimating humans would never be possible again. As the fleet passed the final sensor checkpoint, the commander issued a final log entry. Human rule observed. Principles enforced without hostility. First contact completed. Withdrawal successful. The galaxy must be warned and prepared. Humans are not merely alive. They are ready. Even though the alien ships were now in open space, far from the human fleet, the tension did not fade. Crew members continued to speak in hushed tones, discussing the incredible precision, the control, and the absolute calm of the humans. They had witnessed restraint that was stronger than aggression. The alien commander reflected on the consequences. The human rule was not written in treaties or laws. It was demonstrated through action. A single fleet had enforced it perfectly. Civilizations across the galaxy would respect it. They would avoid the regions humans protected. They would adjust strategies and alliances. As the alien fleet drifted further from the human border, the commander allowed himself one thought. Humanity was not just a species. They were a standard. A force that operated without chaos, without rashness, without malice, yet more dangerous than any enemy the galaxy had known. The fleet continued moving silently, the stars stretching endlessly ahead. But behind them, the human rule lingered. Its presence was invisible, its reach absolute, and its lesson unforgettable. Every alien ship carried the knowledge now. The galaxy had a new definition of power, and humans had claimed it quietly, effectively, and forever. The alien fleet drifted through open space, engines humming at low power, but the crew remained tense. First contact with humans had ended, but the experience had left a permanent mark. No one spoke much, yet every officer and sailor felt the same weight. Humans were not just a species. They were a standard of power and discipline the galaxy had never seen. The commander ordered a full debrief of all ships. Every observation, every reading, every sensor anomaly had to be recorded accurately. This was not just for protocol. It was for survival. Civilizations across the galaxy would soon need to understand the new reality. Humans were not to be underestimated. Reports began to arrive immediately. The scanner teams described the human warships in detail. Massive, silent, perfectly coordinated, and highly efficient. Their designs were simple yet brutally effective. No decoration, no wasted space. Weapons were hidden behind reinforced armor, ready at a moment's notice. Energy systems were layered and redundant. They could adapt instantly to changing circumstances. Every report concluded the same thing. Humans were disciplined beyond comprehension. The historians began their work. They compared this encounter with records of past civilizations. Extinct species that had vanished mysteriously, long-lost fleets that disappeared without a trace, old warning signals now forgotten. The conclusion was chilling. Humans had enforced boundaries for centuries, eliminating threats before they could grow. The alien fleet had been lucky to survive. The scientists focused on analyzing the data captured from the warning pulse fired at the asteroid. Even at minimal output, it had demonstrated immense destructive capability. The technology was not just advanced, it was perfected. Yet the humans had chosen restraint. That choice, more than the pulse itself, instilled fear. They could destroy without hesitation, but they would not, unless necessary. Political officers began preparing communication to the Galactic Council. This first contact would not remain secret. The knowledge had to spread, but carefully. The message would need to convey respect, fear, and a warning, all without exaggeration. Any mistake could lead to panic or misjudgment. Humans were not aggressive in intent, but their strength demanded recognition. Across the fleet, crew members debated quietly. Some argued that humans were fair and just. Others insisted they were terrifying because they could erase entire fleets without leaving a trace. Both views were correct. Humans did not rely on rage or emotion. They relied on strategy, discipline, and principle. That combination made them unpredictable and formidable. The commander reviewed the human interactions once more. The calm, deliberate communications. The measured responses. The careful use of energy to display power without harm. Every decision had been calculated. No human ship had moved unnecessarily. No weapons had been fired except for the demonstration. Every action reinforced a single message: do not cross human boundaries. The alien fleet's morale began to stabilize, but unease remained. Training exercises, once routine, now felt meaningless compared to what they had witnessed. The humans had redefined expectations. Survival depended not on numbers or conventional firepower, but on understanding limits and responding perfectly to unseen threats. Meanwhile, subspace messages were sent to Allied fleets. Entire sectors received alerts about human-controlled regions. Warnings spread quickly. Maps were updated. Routes were changed. Trade lanes were rerouted. Strategic plans were revised. The galaxy was adjusting before humans had even moved again. The very presence of humanity, silent and disciplined, had shifted the balance of power. The commander allowed himself a moment of reflection. He had entered human-protected space as an explorer. He was leaving as a witness to a standard that few species could match. Human restraint was more dangerous than any attack. Their discipline, precision, and ability to control outcomes without panic or emotion made them the ultimate guardians. As the fleet settled into normal speeds, the crew began sharing stories of the encounter. Small moments stuck in memory: the disappearance of the scout ship, the warning pulse at the asteroid, the calm, unwavering gaze of the human commander, the perfectly synchronized formation of warships. Every retelling reinforced a single lesson. Humans did not threaten recklessly. They did not overreact. They simply enforced rules with certainty. The historians compiled all data, creating a permanent record. Future generations would study this first contact carefully. Lessons would be learned. Strategies revised. Humans had demonstrated the power of preparation, patience, and absolute control. Those who failed to understand would face the consequences sooner or later. The commander issued a final order before the fleet returned to routine patrols. Every officer had to review the human strategies, the warning systems, and the principles demonstrated during the encounter. This was not just about surviving humans. It was about surviving any species that learned from them. Even as the fleet moved farther from human space, its presence remained a constant in every mind. The galaxy had been reminded of an old truth. The most dangerous force was not the loudest or the most numerous. It was the one that waited, prepared, and enforced its will without chaos or hesitation. The commander allowed a single thought to settle. Humanity had not attacked. They had simply shown what they could do. That was enough. The alien fleet had survived first contact, but the memory of the humans would never fade. Every decision, every maneuver, every communication had been precise. The galaxy now knew that humans were not to be underestimated. In every ship, the crew finally understood the lesson. Respect was necessary. Obedience was survival. And caution was no longer a suggestion. The human rule had left its mark, and the galaxy would never forget it. The alien fleet had finally left human-protected space, engines at normal cruising speed, but the memory of the encounter lingered like a shadow. Every officer, every crew member, and every scientist carried the weight of what they had seen. Humans had not attacked, yet they had demonstrated a level of power and control that surpassed any known civilization. The fleet commander knew that history would remember this day differently depending on perspective, but the truth was undeniable. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The commander ordered a fleet-wide debriefing. Every detail of the encounter had to be recorded. The appearance and design of the human warships, the silent surrounding formation, the warning pulse that had effortlessly destroyed an asteroid, and the calm yet commanding presence of the human leadership. Each report emphasized the same lesson. Humans were precise, disciplined, and patient. They chose when to act and when to observe, and that choice alone made them terrifying. The crew had questions, some unspoken, some whispered quietly to colleagues. How had humans achieved such control over technology and energy? How could they enforce boundaries without aggression? How could a species survive internal chaos long enough to perfect discipline on such a scale? The commander knew the answers would come slowly, through observation and study, but he also knew that the answers would not diminish the respect and fear humans commanded. Over the next few cycles, alien historians and scientists worked tirelessly to analyze human methods and behavior. They pieced together fragments from previous centuries, reports of lost civilizations that had vanished when they ignored human-controlled regions, warnings embedded in trade routes, and signals mysteriously erased or blocked. Every discovery confirmed the same principle. Humans acted with absolute purpose. They did not conquer lightly, but they did not forgive trespass. Their restraint was a weapon, sharpened over centuries of survival and conflict. The fleet's political officers prepared their messages to the broader galaxy. Entire sectors would need to be informed. Maps were redrawn. Routes avoided human space. Trade, military, and exploration fleets would all adjust strategies to account for the boundaries humanity had established. The human rule had extended its influence without firing a single shot. The galaxy had learned, quietly but unmistakably, that humans were not merely another species. They were a standard of power and principle. Back aboard the flagship, the commander reflected on the nature of humanity. They had chosen peace in the encounter, not because they were weak, but because they were confident. Their calm was deliberate. Every movement, every signal, every restraint had been intentional. They were a species capable of total destruction, yet they exercised control and mercy. The choice to enforce their boundaries without unnecessary violence was not a sign of compassion alone. It was a calculated strategy that ensured survival and respect simultaneously. The commander instructed his officers to prepare for continued observation. Even at a distance, the humans' influence was clear. Ships that ventured too close to protected regions would be noticed. Fleets would be guided away silently. Violators might not return. Humanity had created a system of enforcement that required neither aggression nor pursuit. Their power existed in preparation, prediction, and control. As the fleet continued its journey into deep space, the alien crew began to reflect on the implications of what they had witnessed. Humans were not merely capable warriors, they were teachers of restraint. They had demonstrated a standard of conduct that would shape interstellar politics, trade, and exploration for generations. The galaxy had been reminded that the most dangerous species was not necessarily the one that attacked first. It was the one that acted deliberately, enforced its rules perfectly, and waited patiently for any misstep. In the following cycles, the alien fleet encountered other species and civilizations, but the memory of humanity informed every decision. No fleet ventured carelessly into unknown sectors. No commander underestimated boundaries. The humans had set an example that was impossible to ignore. Every report concluded with the same sentiment. Humans were disciplined, precise, and utterly prepared. They did not need war to assert dominance. They needed only patience and strategy. The commander allowed himself a quiet reflection. Humans had survived internal conflict for centuries, refining themselves through struggle until they became a species capable of mastering both technology and principle. They had chosen peace in the encounter, but it was a peace founded on strength, not weakness. They had demonstrated the power of restraint, showing that mercy could be as formidable as destruction. The fleet's scientists continued to study the human technology and tactics. Even from afar, patterns could be discerned. How energy was distributed across multiple systems, how redundancy ensured resilience, and how human strategy relied on prediction rather than reaction. Every insight reinforced a single truth. Humanity's greatest weapon was not the power of its ships, but the discipline and intelligence of its people. The commander issued final orders for long-term observation. The alien fleet would avoid human space but continue to monitor movements. Communication protocols were updated to include the possibility of first contact under strict observation. Civilizations across the galaxy would have to respect the human rule. Ignoring it was no longer an option. As the stars passed by the fleet's observation windows, the commander allowed himself one final thought. Humanity had chosen peace, but in doing so, they had ensured survival and commanded respect. They had rewritten the rules of interstellar conduct without firing a single destructive shot. Every species that encountered them in the future would have to remember this lesson. Humans were patient, prepared, and perfectly capable of enforcing their will. In the months that followed, the alien fleet's data was shared with allied civilizations. Maps were redrawn. Strategic calculations were revised. First contact with humans became a case study in power, discipline, and restraint. Humans had not conquered. They had not destroyed. They had simply chosen when and how to act, demonstrating a control so complete that fear alone ensured compliance. The alien commander recorded a final entry in his log. Humanity is not an enemy we faced, but a standard we witnessed. Their strength lies in restraint, their power in preparation, and their rule in principle. First contact has changed our understanding of the galaxy. We have survived, but the lesson of humanity will guide every decision for generations to come. As the fleet disappeared into the depths of space, the legacy of that encounter remained. The humans had chosen peace, but the galaxy had learned a new truth. Restraint enforced with certainty was more formidable than any attack, and a species capable of such control would forever shape the cosmos. The human rule endured, silent and absolute, a lesson in power, principle, and the deliberate choice of peace.